Okay, so what is this? Last five problems. So the Unit 1 practice test. So let's get right into it. So on number 26, it says match the graph with an equation. So we just want to write an equation for this graph. Okay. You can go slope-intercept form. You can go standard form. It doesn't matter. Usually when they give you a picture of a graph, I think slope-intercept form is easy. Point-slope form is also easy. If they give you a multiple choice option and you have to pick, know how to pick which one is from the graph. Okay, so know how to go back and forth on this. This one, it says match the equation or match the graph with an equation. So we're going to give this. So if this is slope intercept form, you can go y equals mx plus b. And remember, b is just where you cross the y-axis, so it looks like b crosses at 2. Your slope is a fraction, and I need to find another dot somewhere on the graph. So there's a dot over here, it looks like. Now I know you don't see dots, but what you need to do is you need to make another dot that crosses at an intersection point. And what we're going to do is we're going to count spaces between these two dots. So you're going to count how many you go over and how many you go up and down. So if I start at B, I'm going down 1, 2 spaces. So I went down 2. So count spaces 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I went to the right 6. Okay, so we went down 2 to the right 6. The top number is up or down, the bottom number is left or right, so I went down 2 to the right 6. Since we went down and to the right, as we talked about when we talked about graphing lines, we talked about slopes, this is a negative slope. So I need you to put a negative in front of that fraction. Where at? Don't matter. It can be on the top, it can be on the bottom, it can be out in front of the fraction. It does not matter. Put a negative sign somewhere. Don't make them both negative, because you know 2 negatives would make that positive. And then I would reduce that fraction. So what goes into both 2 and 6? I think I can divide both of those by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that means that slope is 1 over 3. So if you go 1 over 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, yep, 1, 1, 2, 3. Looks like it would have worked. We had 1, 1, 2, 3. There's a couple points we could have picked on there, and they all have the same slope. So there's slope-intercept form. You can do it that way. You can talk about standard form. But standard form means you got to write it so it says ax plus by equals c. Okay, you could also use point slope form. It doesn't matter. All right? But it just said match the graph with an equation. So it match whatever you want. Match your graph with your equation. So point slope form, which was y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, if it's a multiple choice, pick which one that matches the graph. Okay, go the other direction with it. Okay, your test is going to have, it's going to be half and half. I think half free response, half multiple choice. Okay. All right, so there's 26. Let's do 27. 27 just says to graph that. So that is in slope-intercept form. This graph is in slope-intercept form. How can I tell right off the bat just by looking at it? Because it says y equals. Okay, so what do I do first? I figure out what my slope is, and I figure out which one my y-intercept is. So in this case, the slope is 5/2, and the y-intercept is a positive 1. So what does the y-intercept mean? That means that's where the graph is going to start on the y-line. So what I want you to do is put a dot at a positive 1. I put orange pen on orange highlighter. Let's try something else to make it a little darker, so hopefully you can see that. And then I'm going to use my slope. So my slope is a positive 5 over 2. So you can go up 5 and you can go to the right 2, count spaces, put your pen or pencil on the dot you just graphed. Remember, do the y-intercept first. That's where you begin. That's why it's b, y equals mx plus b. The y-intercept is where you begin. Count spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, up 5 to the right 2. Did you have to go up 5 and to the right 2? No, you could have went down 5, but if you go down 5, you have to go to the left 2. So I could have went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and to the left 2. There you got it. Let's see if I have anything where I can kind of flat edge it and connect my dots. There we go. There's a line. Why am I putting arrows at the both ends of the line? Because the line doesn't stop. We haven't given it any direction to stop, so it's not stopping it. Okay, number 28, it says y equals 23 would be example of a linear function that has a slope of, so what is the slope of this line? Okay, what kind of slope is that? Remember, there were 4 slopes. There were positive slopes. There was a 0 slope. There was a negative slope. And there was, what am I missing? Oh, undefined slope. Positive slopes go this way, 0 slopes are flat, negative slopes go the other direction, and undefined goes vertical. Okay, so that's a linear function that has a slope of, what does it have a slope of there? Well, remember, if you think about y equals mx plus b, this one says y equals 23 would technically be your y-intercept because 23 doesn't have an x with it. So do you see any x's in this problem? I do not. So this technically, if you don't see x's at all, like it doesn't even show up, that means there are no x's in that problem. So that means there are 0 x's. So this would have a slope of 0. Okay? That would be an example of a linear function that has a slope of 0. Okay. 29, just something, I just need you to think of a real world example that says slope. Okay? So don't tell me a roof or a building or a hill. Like, that's not really, I mean, that does have a slope to it. But I want you to think of in terms of your everyday life, like slopes, a real example of what we have for slope. Okay? There's lots of things. Okay? Miles per hour is a slope. Okay, dollars per hour is a slope. A slope compares 2 things. So more than likely, if it compares 2 things, it's a slope. Okay, these are all things we've talked about in the prior lessons. Students per class, that's a slope because I'm comparing the amount of students for every class that I have. Okay, some of you may have, I don't know what you have to do. You may have a specific number of assignments that you need to do per day. So assignments per day, that's a slope. A slope just means how much stuff is going on compared to the amount of time that we have. It compares 2 things. It's not always time. Like this one says class, students per class. Okay, pets per family, that's another one. How many pets you got in your family? Okay, cats, dogs, geckos, what you guys got? Nothing, maybe? Okay, so do you notice how all of these, anytime you compare 2 things, then that's a slope. So all of these are slopes right here. So a lot of times when we teach you guys math and algebra and we go through slopes, people are like, they don't think they're going to run into that. You actually run into slopes probably every day of your life, okay, at some point, okay? We don't call them slopes. So once you leave school, we don't say slope anymore. You don't go to work and you don't ask your boss, hey, what's my slope? They give you the amount. They say, hey, how much am I making? Can I get a raise of a certain amount per hour? So we don't say slopes outside of the classroom. We phrase it more in terms of how things are changing. Okay, remember, your car tells you this. Your car tells you miles per hour. So your car has a slope machine in it. It has a speedometer. That gives you what your slopes are. Okay, there's 29. 29 says solve the equation for B. So when it says solve the equation for B, what does that mean to do with B? That means get B by itself. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to do all of these things, and I want to do the opposite of a lot of these things. So first thing I'm going to do, I don't know. Hey, look, this says dividing by 7. So what I would like to do is, if I'm dividing by 7, is let's take both sides and times by 7, or multiply by 7, and use our inverse operations. 7 times r is 7r. A fraction means division. That's why we're doing this. That's why I'm multiplying by 7, because I got to do the opposite of division. So what happens with dividing and multiplying, if they're inverses and they're the same values, they'll be gone, they'll eliminate, they'll cancel each other out, however it's been presented to you before. Okay, so I took care of the 7. So look, no more fractions. Okay, you can do a couple things with this 1. This 1's not going to change your life all that much now. You know that that 1 means you can distribute it to the inside, but what is 1 times any of that stuff? It's not going to change. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 2 is 2. So that 1, don't make that be the painful thing. Now remember, we're getting b by itself, so the next thing I see that's pretty easy to take care of is let's add 3 to both sides. So we're going to add that. What do inverse operations do? They cancel. I get 7r plus 3 equals 2bm. We're still getting b by itself. How is b combined with this 2 and m? Remember, these are the two things I need to move. I need to move this 2, I need to move this m, because I want to get b by itself. So how am I going to get that by itself? We're going to divide these out. Because when things are side by side like this, it's not adding. How would we know if it's adding? There'd be a plus sign in there. Just like I knew it was subtraction because there's a minus sign. These aren't being added. Things that are next to each other like this are being multiplied. So let's get rid of them by dividing. And you can divide them both at the same time. The 2's, the 2, and the m's will cancel on the right side. So we will get b is equal to... Do you have any idea what 7r plus 3 divided by 2m is? No. And this is where kids will stop and stare at this. Be like, I don't know what it is. Good. I don't know what it is either. So write down what you have. 7r plus 3. I know it looks weird. Over 2m. There's a lot of things in life that look weird. But that's okay. Write it down. You got it. You're good to go. Okay? Don't get stuck because it looks weird. You're fine. Don't overthink stuff. A lot of times we overthink stuff. Okay? All right. Let's see. We got through the practice test. If you've got issues, catch me on the live stream. Send me a message. Say something. Josh, I don't know how to do this. Okay? I did all of them on this. This is what your test 1 will look like. It'll look like these types of problems. Okay? All right.